What's going on, Jerome's? So Minnesota Vikings general manager adofo-mensah has been cooking this offseason, and there's lots of speculation that the Minnesota Vikings could and should be trading into the stratosphere, find their quarterback of the future, and everything will be hunky-dory. And I'm sure Kwesi's been working the phones, and whether it's the Commies at 2, the Patriots at 3, the Cardinals at 4, or maybe on draft night, the Chargers at 5, the Vikings potentially should make a move and find their guy and quarterback of the future to build around. When it doesn't Lombardi's in the next 10 years. But what if the Vikings don't make a move up? What if the board just doesn't break right and teams stick and pick, or another team leapfrogs the Vikings because they pay through the nose? And the Vikings, they don't want to mortgage the future to move on up. And like we said, the Vikings getting back in at 23 give them a lot of flexibility. They could stick and pick, and there's a lot of talent there. But also, what about the other direction? What about potentially trading down? And yes, Kwesi has traded down a number of times in the past, but not as much as Rick Spielman. Somewhere right now, Rick Spielman is smiling. So whether it's the Vikings at 11 or at 23, could the Vikings make a move down and reacquire some day 2 draft capital? Because as of right now, they are bereft of day 2 selections. And we said before, it could be a very interesting spot at 11 and very valuable spot, because say the top 10 picks could all potentially be offensive players with 4 quarterbacks, 3 tackles, 3 wide receivers, and a team that wants to come up for an edge, a team that wants to come up for a cornerback, a team that wants to come up for whatever, could pay the Vikings a premium to move on up. Or the Vikings could just stick and pick and take said player. But NFL.com's Chad Reuter, who is fantastic, I always love his 4 and 7 round mock drafts this time of year. So did up a piece, 2024 NFL Draft, 6 logical first round trades teams should make to benefit all parties involved. A win-win. And Chad suggests that the Vikings do business with an old friend, Howie Roseman of the Philadelphia Eagles. So this is the trade. Eagles get number 11, and the Vikings get 22, and also get back in the second round number 50 overall, which is originally from the Saints. Here's what Chad wrote. Eagles general manager Howie Roseman has traded up in the first round in 4 of his last 5 years. Another Thursday night swap could secure the services of a top cornerback, Terry Arnold or Quinton Mitchell, or wideout Xavier Worthy, the new NFL Scouting Combine 40-yard dash record holder. Mitchell might be the top candidate given his combination of size and speed, and the fact that Philadelphia gave up the second most passing touchdowns, 35, in the NFL last season. You hate to see it. Minnesota or Denver, whichever team does not work out a deal with the Cardinals, must decide whether it views the 5th quarterback in this class as worthy of a top 12 selection. If not, Vikings GM adofo-mensah can follow through with this deal, using either the Eagles 22 pick or 23 on a quarterback, Bo Nix or Michael Penix Jr., and the other on an edge rusher, Latu, cornerback Nate Wiggins, offensive lineman Grant Barton, or defensive lineman Fisk, Murphy, Johnny Newton, etc. So the Vikings, I mean, if this went down, I wouldn't be overly mad. And the trade chart likes it, does give the Vikings an edge in this spot by acquiring 22 and 50 versus just 11 overall. This is from the Fitz-Spielberger trade chart. But, of course, all trade charts are different. But we spun up a couple mock drafts where the Vikings just went through the first 2 rounds now, and you're still able to get your potential quarterback of the future. And I do like Michael Penix, but I understand that he is a risk because of medicals right now. Also, Penix just ran like a 4.4 640. So much for the Michael Penix can't move narratives. Or, the Vikings could maneuver. They could go Bo Nix. They could go Spencer Rattler in these ones. But, I mean, the Vikings, again, having 3 picks in the top 50 in a draft that is, top 50, top 60 heavy, where, there is a tier 1 up here, but overall it's relatively flat in terms of talent heading into the thick of day 2. I mean, I wouldn't be mad at this overall, because, again, if the Vikings can't find the right deal, where ideally they don't give up that 2025 first-round pick and find the quarterback of the future, this is such a deep class that the Vikings could potentially move down, because this is not a normal class where quarterback 5 should be going in the 4th round or 5th round. I mean, Penix Jr. and Bo Nix could potentially be starters. Same thing with Spencer Rattler. Now, I do have reservations on Nix, which we've covered extensively, but either way, he certainly could be in the mix with some certain teams, and given the right situation, he may thrive. And like I said, with these two mocks, so the Vikings have 22, 23, and then 50, getting Johnny Newton up at the top, Penix Jr. in the first round with that fifth-year option, and then Christian Haynes, the supersized guard from UConn, or version 2. So we had our choice of Jackson Powers Johnson or Graham Barton from Duke up at 22. We took Byron Murphy II at 23, as well as in the second round, we took Spencer Rattler. So whichever way you cut it, like, it's a spot where, do you want to put all your eggs in one basket for one guy, including probably a future first rounder? And if the Vikings brass determine that he is the guy, do it. Whether it's Drake May, Jaden Daniels, JJ McCarthy, if the juice is worth the squeeze, go do it. But if they can't get a deal done for whatever reason, or they don't see whatever guys on the board as worth it, moving on down could be a logical spot. And like Chad said, I mean, the Vikings sitting at 11 could be a very valuable spot where, the first defensive player off the board, or one of the first, could be there. And that pick, especially with some very specific needy teams, whether it's corner or edge, may be motivated to come on up. And the Vikings may be able to recoup a very large amount of that draft capital and just go from there. But your thoughts are thoughts. NFL.com has a couple trade suggestions for the Vikings potentially moving on down to the east side. Finally got a piece of the pie. Let us know your thoughts and our thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work? Put a little something in the Venmo. But until next time, Skol, production value.